Hi, I'm Tolga Tarhan, Onica's CTO, and today I'm with Will.
Hi, I'm William. I'm the lead DevOps architect at Onica.
Today we're going to talk about containers. So Will, what are containers and what is Docker?
So containers are a technology that basically wraps up a process on a computer so that it's self-contained and it has all of the additional libraries and the other components that it needs to run. This is really different from how most people think of them. People think that they're like virtual machines, which are a lot more common and have been in the IT space for a longer time, but they're actually very different.
So, okay, how are they different than virtual machines?
Well, a virtual machine launches an entire computer's operating system within itself. So that includes the most critical part, which is called the kernel. Kernel sort of handles how the software is interacting with the hardware of the computer. In a virtual machine, all of that is still running and there's a lot of extra overhead. But in a container, all they really need to do is use the kernel from whatever computer is already running that container system. And then they just fill in the extra files that need that smaller operating system to run inside it. So it's a lot smaller and more lightweight.
Okay, so what other benefits are there besides size to containers over virtual machines?
Well, with the decrease in overhead compared to a virtual machine, it's considerably faster to launch. So it can take a matter of, maybe just a second or two to launch a new container, whereas with a virtual machine, you have to wait for the entire thing to boot up. And it also makes it a lot more interesting to move those processes around from one host to another. So it becomes a lot easier to, say, have a whole cluster of machines that are all running a container interface like Docker. And if a container were to stop on one server, you could start it up really easily on another server, and it just takes a few seconds for that to happen.
Awesome, and what does AWS provide in the container space?
AWS has a number of really cool features to run containers. One of them is ECS, which is their Elastic Container Service, and this is sort of their original offering. It basically grants you the opportunity to launch EC2 resources in AWS and then deploy containers onto them. And it'll manage scheduling them, and it ties into IAM for permissions handling really nicely. Their newer service is EKS, which is essentially their hosted Kubernetes. So you have a full Kubernetes cluster that the masters are managed for you by AWS. And then you still have sort of the more familiar interface of Kubernetes, which is the front runner in the container scheduling interface. Amazon's final offering in the container space is Fargate, which is essentially an overlay for ECS and EKS. And what this allows you to do is deploy containers into Amazon without having to actually manage any of the EC2 resources that they're running on. So this allows a lot more flexibility and a lot less management overhead when you're deploying containers.
Awesome, thanks Will.
Thanks.